You're watching Beyond Markets. Welcome. I'm Esther Awuni. Many thanks for joining us today. On today's show, we'll explore the risk trends for African businesses in 2020. And later on, the executive chairman of Alpen Capital speaks on the importance of building investment links between Africa and Dubai. As always, you can join the conversation with the hashtag Beyond Markets. You can also follow my Twitter handle, send your thoughts and your comments to @EstherOAwuni. Now, risk management experts from 102 countries said the most important business risks in Africa and the Middle East are business interruption, events and cyber incidents. Now, this was reflected in the risk barometer report by Allianz. The report further highlights that macroeconomic developments are the top issues for Ghana and Nigeria, while cyber incidents are the top concerns in South Africa. Nobuhle Nkosi, the head of financial lines at Allianz Global Corporate Specialty, joins me now to share more insight on the risk trends in Africa. Nobuhle, thank you for taking the time out to join us today. I'd like us to just start with the top 10 concerns for risk management experts globally, and then we'll walk our way down to Africa, specifically Nigeria and South Africa. Now, I see cyber incidents taking the top spot on the list, and I suppose that this is also being echoed across the world at this point. Many businesses, a number of businesses that we've spoken to have also highlighted that cyber risks, cyber threats are their number one risk concern for 2020. But just walk us through, starting with cyber incidents and the other top risk concerns for businesses this year.
Thank you very much, and good evening to the viewers. Cyber has become quite a top trend with regards to risk globally, and the reason for that is because we are now in the fourth industrial revolution. We are living in the digital age, so a lot of businesses are going through the journey of becoming digital. And as much as this presents business with opportunity, it also does present quite a lot of risks with uncertainty that comes with this digitalization journey. So what we saw in the risk barometer, specifically with regards to cyber, is the fact that there are increasing costs with regards to data breach remediation. If you look at, for example, a data set of about 1 million affected parties could cost up to 42 million euros to rectify. So that's quite a lot of money that's involved. And then we've also noticed that there is very high risk with regards to business interruption that relates from cyber events. That could be either from technical glitches, or it could be from human error, because business has now a really, really big reliance on technology, and business has to be online. So any downtime could cost millions and millions for business. The top 3 causes of cyber from the barometer this year was firstly data breaches. Regulators have become very, very stringent on companies. Companies have to ensure that they protect data. We have seen quite significant fines come out of the GDPR regulator with quite a large amounts involved. So that regulator's sending a point to say that responsible data control is required from business. But in Africa, we also need to be cognizant of this. In Ghana, for example, there are data protection laws in place currently. This is also a growing trend within the continent, where regulators are looking at how companies look after the data of their customers. The second biggest cause of cyber incidents was that of cybercrime. So cybercrime is costing the global economy billions and billions. In 2018, it was said to be at $600 billion, and it is set to increase to trillions in the next few years. So this is a very, very big risk for business around the world, and Africa is not immune to this. We are also seeing companies report large amounts of hacking attacks that are a big threat to their business. The last incident is that of human error. So human error can cause business interruption as I mentioned earlier, where technical glitch can happen and then the system is down, the network is down, and the business loses profits on a daily basis. So these are the top three that we discovered are the major causes of cyber incidents, and one of the main reasons why cyber is now at the top of the risk barometer in 2020 for businesses globally.
Now, Nobuhle, obviously there's 10 of them on the list, and we probably won't be able to go through all 10 of them, but I'm just looking at the list now, and I'm a little surprised to see climate change at the bottom of the list, coming in at number 7. And it's quite interesting because now we're seeing conversations around the effect of climate change, gaining more momentum, the ESG, the environment, sustainability, and governance, and how companies are championing that now. There's also that talk about sustainability also gaining momentum. So I'm just wondering why climate change is at number 7 when we're actually seeing more momentum around that conversation globally, at least.
Climate change is a big topic for business at the moment. As you mentioned, that ESG talks to companies being, corporate responsible citizens. And it also talks to sustainability. So global warming is underway, and the impact of global warming will have a significant impact in business. If you look at Africa specifically, a lot of the countries are big on agriculture. They have a big agricultural sector, and we are very much dependent on rainfall to be able to produce agricultural products. So it is something that business is keeping a close eye on. Because it does have an impact not just on business but also on the livelihood of the world, the earth and its citizens.
Now, also quickly looking at for the top 10 global concerns, looking at this year's list compared to 2019, are there any differences or major key differences between both reports?
The major difference would be cyber being number 1. For the first time globally. But if you look within the continent, for example, we're looking at Nigeria, who has participated in the survey for a few years now. Macroeconomic development has shot up from number 9 to number 1 in Nigeria. And this is, according to the Economist, is because of the slow GDP growth at 2.9% in the last quarter compared to the 6% that the country has been experiencing. And some of this is because of some of the reliance on 3 main sectors, which is agriculture, crude oil, as well as telecoms. So that is a concern for Nigeria. But what we've also seen is that Nigeria is also concerned about cyber events, particularly cyber crime, and this is linked to the number 3 on the risk barometer, which is corruption and fraud. The risk professionals are concerned that corruption and fraud does have an impact on economic growth, particularly from the public sector side. There is an impact on private sector, but it's more from the public officials.
Well, speaking about Nigeria, let's take a little deeper dive into Nigeria's top risks for this year. There's a new entry on the list coming in at number 7, and that's fire and explosion. Could you tell us more about this and how this made its way to the list for the first time this year?
Fire and explosion is a big risk for businesses because it does lead to business interruption. So companies need to make sure that they build the resilience around should an explosion happen or should there be a fire that causes the business interruption, that they have the resilience, in the form of maybe a backup site, but also with regards to improved risk management and ensuring that there is fire protection, very good fire protection in place so that the extent of the damage is not crippling on the business. So fire and explosion, we've definitely seen an increase in fire and explosion, not just in Nigeria, but also in other parts of the continent, as well as globally. It is in the top 10 as well.
Let's quickly move on to South Africa now. Let's perhaps start with what's the new entrants this year. Critical infrastructure blackouts coming in with respondents coming in at 23%. Could you tell us more about that? I suppose, of course, that it's when one thinks about the energy issues that have been going on in South Africa, perhaps not too surprising.
Yes, South Africa has been under spotlight lately driven by the fact that there's been an energy crisis. You know, in the past year, during the December period, there was load shedding. So the grid is under pressure, and this does have an impact on business and the sustainability thereof. So risk managers in South Africa are saying that it is a concern for them that there is, you know, currently pressure on the grid, because it really speaks to you know, business being able to grow, and it overlaps to the economy. So this is something that is a concern in South Africa. But you know, energy supply is something that is a concern across the African continent, in other countries as well. You know, the energy is something that, you know, we need to be concerned with as business, to ensure that there's sustainability and growth in the economies.
Another item that's coming in as new on the South African list this year is macroeconomic developments, monetary policies, austerity programs, etc. I'm curious about that too. What can you tell us about that?
The macroeconomic aspect really looks at the economic growth. You know, the South African economy has been sluggish over the past few years, and that has put quite a lot of strain on the economy and has a direct impact on business. It also has led to quite a high employment rate at 29%. So this is something that does impact business. We are seeing headlines at the moment where, you know, companies are going into retrenchment as a way to try and, you know, sustain themselves. So austerity measures are also something that is important with regards to, you know, government and fiscal policy, monetary policy.
Nobuhle, thank you for your time today. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much.